When destiny waited in the hallway, the morning started like any other impossible morning in Sarah Mitchell's life. Her daughter Emma woke up with a fever, her small cheeks flushed pink, her eyes glassy with illness. Sarah pressed her palm against Emma's forehead and felt her heart sink. "Mommy," Emma whispered, her voice thin and tired. "I don't feel good." Sarah glanced at the clock. 7:15. She had exactly 45 minutes to get to the Grandview Hotel, where she worked as a housekeeper. It was the holiday season, the busiest time of year, and they'd already warned the staff that no absences would be tolerated this week. She couldn't lose this job. Not now. Not when the rent was already 2 weeks late. "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said softly, brushing Emma's blonde curls away from her face. "I know you don't feel well." She made a decision that filled her with guilt and anxiety in equal measure. Emma would have to come to work with her. There was no other choice. The babysitter was out of town. Sarah had no family in the city, and the emergency room copay was money she simply didn't have. Sarah dressed Emma in warm layers, wrapped her favorite red scarf around her neck, and tucked her stuffed bunny into her arms. Emma leaned against her mother's shoulder as they rode the bus across town, too tired to ask questions, too sick to complain. The Grandview Hotel rose before them like a palace of glass and marble. Sarah had worked there for 3 years, moving through its elegant hallways like a ghost, invisible to the wealthy guests who passed her without a glance. She knew every room, every corner, every secret space where she might hide a sick child for a few hours. "You have to be very quiet," Sarah whispered to Emma as they entered through the service entrance. "Can you do that for Mommy?" Emma nodded, her thumb finding its way to her mouth, something she only did when she felt scared or unwell. Sarah settled Emma in a small alcove near the executive floor, a quiet corner where the housekeeping supplies were stored. She made a nest of clean towels and blankets, propped Emma up with pillows, and gave her some medicine from her purse. "I'll check on you every few minutes," Sarah promised. "You stay right here and rest, okay?" "Okay, Mommy," Emma whispered. Sarah's hands trembled as she pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway. She'd never broken the rules like this before. She'd always been the reliable one, the one who showed up on time, who never complained, who worked double shifts without a word. But desperation did strange things to a person. It made you brave and reckless all at once. The executive floor was unusually busy that morning. Sarah kept her head down, moving quickly from room to room, but her mind was always on Emma, tucked away in that alcove, alone and sick. "What kind of mother am I?" she thought. "What kind of mother brings her sick child to work and leaves her in a supply closet?" But what else could she do? Around mid-morning, Sarah was cleaning one of the conference rooms when she heard voices in the hallway. She recognized one of them immediately. It was Mr. Alexander Hunt, the CEO of Hunt Industries, which owned the hotel chain. He was here for some kind of important meeting. Sarah had seen him before, of course. Everyone who worked at the Grandview knew Alexander Hunt. He was young for a CEO, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of presence that made people step aside when he walked past. He was known for being brilliant, demanding, and utterly focused on his business empire. Sarah had never spoken to him. People like her didn't speak to people like him. She heard his footsteps moving down the hallway, accompanied by several other sets of feet. His executives? Probably. She stayed in the conference room, out of sight, waiting for them to pass. But then she heard something that made her blood run cold. A small cough, Emma's cough. Sarah dropped her cleaning cloth and rushed to the doorway. Down the hall, she saw Alexander Hunt standing perfectly still, staring at something. The executives around him had also stopped, looking confused. And then Sarah saw what had frozen them all in place. Emma had wandered out of the alcove. She was standing in the middle of the hallway, her red scarf hanging loose, her stuffed bunny dragging on the floor. She looked so small, so fragile, so utterly out of place in that world of marble and power. Alexander Hunt was staring at Emma with an expression Sarah couldn't quite read. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was something else entirely. Something that looked almost like recognition. Sarah started running. "Emma?" She called out, not caring any more about the rules, about her job, about anything except getting to her daughter. But before Sarah could reach her, Emma looked up at Alexander Hunt, her fevered eyes focused on his face. And then she said something that made the entire world stop spinning. "Daddy." The word hung in the air like a fragile thing that might shatter at any moment. Alexander Hunt went completely pale. His briefcase slipped from his fingers and hit the marble floor with a loud crack. The executives around him froze, their mouths slightly open, unsure of what they were witnessing. Sarah reached Emma and scooped her up, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. "I'm so sorry," Sarah gasped, looking at Alexander Hunt. "She's sick. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's saying. I'm so sorry." But Alexander Hunt wasn't looking at Sarah. He was still staring at Emma. And his face had gone from pale to something else, something raw and broken and desperate. "How old is she?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah clutched Emma tighter. "Mr. Hunt, I can explain how old," he repeated, louder this time. "5, Sarah said. "She's 5 years old." Alexander closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. "What's her birthday?" he asked. "March 15th, Sarah whispered, not understanding why he was asking, not understanding any of this. Alexander let out a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "March 15th, he repeated. 9 months after. He looked at Sarah then, really looked at her, and she saw the moment he remembered. The hotel conference 6 years ago. The night they'd both attended the industry mixer. The conversation that had lasted for hours. The connection that had felt electric and real. The hotel room they'd shared, just once. Before he'd flown back to New York and she'd discovered 2 weeks later that her life had changed forever. She'd tried to find him. She'd called the company, sent emails, but they'd all disappeared into the void of corporate bureaucracy. And eventually, she'd stopped trying. She'd raised Emma alone, working 3 jobs, surviving day by day. "You never told me," Alexander said, and his voice cracked on the last word. "I tried," Sarah whispered. "I tried so hard to reach you." Emma coughed again, and the sound seemed to wake Alexander from his trance. He stepped forward, his hand reaching out slowly, carefully, as if Emma might disappear if he moved too quickly. "Hi," he said softly to Emma. "My name is Alexander." Emma studied him with her fever-bright eyes. "You look like my daddy," she said simply. "Mommy has a picture." Alexander looked at Sarah. "You showed her my picture." "She asked about her father," Sarah said. "I couldn't lie to her." The hallway had gone completely silent. The executives had backed away, giving them space, sensing that they were witnessing something private and profound. Alexander knelt down so he was eye level with Emma. "I'm going to take care of you now," he said. "Both of you, I promise. I'm so sorry I wasn't there before. But I'm here now." Emma considered this for a moment, then held out her stuffed bunny. "This is Mr. Hops," she said. "He's sick too." Alexander took the bunny with hands that shook. "Then we'll take care of Mr. Hops as well," he said. "But first, let's get you to a doctor." He stood up and looked at Sarah. There were tears running down his face now, and he didn't try to hide them. "I have a daughter," he said, wonder and grief mixing in his voice. "I have a daughter, and I didn't know." "You do," Sarah said. "Her name is Emma. She's smart and kind and funny. And she's been waiting her whole life to meet you." Alexander reached out and gently touched Emma's cheek. Emma leaned into his hand like she'd been doing it her whole life. "Daddy," she said again, and this time it wasn't a question. It was a promise.